Part 8. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 71. Lu Feng saw these people present with red eyes and a smile on his face. All he had to do was to drain all the cash from these people. At that time, let Zhou Xianfei come out as a certificate, get a so-called Big White Rabbit project, and collect all the money in their hands. If the flow of funds is cut off, there will inevitably be problems in production. At that time, it is natural to find a bank or private loan. The White Rabbit project promises them to return the funds within 10 days. The loan terms cannot be returned after 15 days, and they will directly take as many shares of the shares. After the expiration, as long as the White Rabbit drags them for a few days, it is enough to take all this group of people. Drag to death. In this kind of situation, Lu Feng did not know how much he went through in the last life, not to mention a few days of funding vacuum period, and some even only 10 hours. When the contract time comes, see the court immediately and take the equity directly. Commonly known as sets. This is also the reason why many business bigwigs buy houses, luxury cars, and manors. Once the capital chain is tight, they will immediately sell and cash out, which can save lives at critical moments. Takeaway. As for Zhou Xianfei's mission, Lu Feng can only do his best. The three gangs are incompatible with each other. With such great interests, it is not uncommon for them to play during this time. A group of people whispered, and finally let Jin Sanyi speak. What's the price of this equity? When will it start? Jin Sanyi asked. Does Qian Zongnan's gang know? To be honest, I originally contacted Qian Zongnan and asked him to take the lead, but I didn't expect that the plane would be borrowed by the municipal office. Secretary Zhou chatted with me for a long time, and called my old man, and finally made a decision. Let them take the lead. Everyone nodded, and the expressions on their faces were not very good. If Zhou Xianfei took the lead, this matter would be a little off. The meal lasted until 11 o'clock in the evening. Third Master Jin politely retained Lu Feng to stay at the villa for one night, but Lu Feng dared not. Since he talked about the big dairy cow project, Third Master Jin always smiled when he saw him. Several large golden teeth are very dazzling. Now in their eyes, Lu Feng is a money printing machine. In case the Third Master Jin is cruel and lets his granddaughter into the room, there is a de facto marriage, and Lu Feng has nowhere to cry. Bai Yuanfang was already waiting outside the gate. The night wind was a little cold, and Lu Feng's nose hurt a little. After saying goodbye to everyone, he got into the car and rode the night wind straight to the hotel. Although it was late at night, the business community in Baiwan City was doomed to have no sleep tonight, especially the hometown association. In order to get a first shot, Mr. Jin took the lead in releasing the news, saying that Mr. Wang had formed an important cooperation with them. These include equity replacement, product quality requirements, and new product equity preference. The people with noses and eyes announced by Jin Sanyi late at night are much more detailed than Qian Zongnan. Everyone can't sleep, thinking who is more reliable. Back at the hotel, Lu Feng was about to open the door. Seeing Bai Yuanfang was still following him, he said, "Go back and rest early." "I have to live with you," Bai Yuanfang said seriously. "No need, it's already played in the afternoon." "I have to live in a block, or he won't worry about it, and he will go into the house and talk about it." Bai Yuanfang glanced around, opened the door, pulled Lu Feng in, and closed the door. "I think he is convinced that he can sign the contract, sign a fake contract tomorrow, and then sign another, equity transfer agreement. Just say your identity, put it in your name, it is easy to be investigated by the disciplinary committee, put it in my name, he will definitely agree." Hearing her words, Lu Feng was a little dumbfounded. It seemed that no one was a fool. He asked Qian Zongnan to transfer the shares of the factory to her name, and then she divorced Qian Zongnan. In the end, I'm still a little white-face. Just as Lu Feng was about to say something, Bai Yuanfang's pager rang. She picked it up and took a look. It said, "Quickly answer the call, Qian Zongnan. I'll go out and make a phone call, I'll be back in a while, you can take a shower first," Bai Yuanfang said, and then stood on tiptoe and kissed Lu Feng's face. When the door closed, Lu Feng sighed, reached out to wipe his face, and muttered, "Damn, there isn't a single fuel-efficient lamp, they're all experts." Bai Yuanfang arrived at the VIP bar on the floor and said, "Hello, I'll make a call." "Hello ma'am, the phone in the room is free worldwide. I'll fight right here." "Okay." Bai Yuanfang called and asked, "What's wrong?" "Are you with him?" Qian Zongnan whispered on the other end of the phone. "No, I'm at the bar outside, so to speak." "Wife, thank you for your hard work. As long as you do well this time, it will be fine for the two of us to live a rich life every day for the rest of our lives. You will pester him tonight." "Don't worry, I don't have a crush on you, but I still have a crush on money." "What's the matter?" Bai Yuanfang asked impatiently. "Master Jin just released the news. This kid is hiding it from us. Did he tell you about a big dairy cow project? He is here this time for this matter. It is a public-private partnership model. Their Wang family wants to make money. I came here, and I heard that it was led by the municipal government, and there is some equity replacement." More than 10 minutes later, Bai Yuanfang's face was ugly. "I'll ask him tonight. My wife has worked hard, but I still love you." Qian Zongnan on the phone was definitely the gentlest voice in the past 2 years, but the occasional woman acting like a spoiled child made it a little distorted. "Got it." Bai Yuanfang hung up the phone. Standing there, she was very suspicious, thinking about what Lu Feng was going to do. She had a bad feeling that this young college student was out of control. Bai Yuanfang's thinking is very simple. She gets the control of the factory and gets the most wealth. At that time, she will take care of Lu Feng, a college student, and live a small life for a few days, but now it seems that Lu Feng, a pure college student, has a lot of heart. Bai Yuanfang knocked on the door and said, "Open the door." "I'm sleeping, you can open a room to sleep." "Don't make trouble, open the door quickly, or I'll ask the front desk for a room card." Lu Feng had no choice but to open the door. Bai Yuanfang walked in and saw that Lu Feng had just finished taking a shower, with her upper body naked and her strong chest, seeing her heart beating faster. "What did you say when you were having dinner tonight?" Bai Yuanfang asked. Lu Feng knew that she was going to ask. Any identity could be exposed, but the identity of the owner of GMA Food Factory could not be exposed, otherwise everything would be changed. In Bai Yuanfang's eyes, he is a rebellious college student, and purity is his only label. "I'm talking nonsense. You weren't here. They forced me to drink. I was so flustered." Lu Feng sat on the bed, at a loss, like a big boy who had never experienced society. Seeing him like this, Bai Yuanfang sighed inwardly. It was really embarrassing for him. She stepped forward and hugged his head, and said softly, "It's all right, with my sister here, it'll be all right." As she spoke, she raised Lu Feng's head and kissed him slowly. Lu Feng subconsciously wanted to hide. "You are not willing?" "No, I just think it's too fast." Lu Feng smiled awkwardly and said, "I drank, and my mouth stinks." "I don't dislike it. Do you have a partner?" "No." "Do you have a wife?" "No." "Fool, am I not your wife?" Lu Feng scratched his head speechlessly when he heard such earthy words. "Sister knows that a college student like you doesn't like me, and she won't delay you. For a few years, even a few months, she won't treat you badly." Bai Yuanfang was already riding on Lu Feng's body, reaching out to ask for it. "Push him down." "I'm tired." "I'm not tired." Bai Yuanfang smiled ambiguously and said, "You are my person, we must be grasshoppers on a rope. I will definitely not treat you badly. Let my sister taste what it's like to be a college student." Lu Feng has already felt that the other party can't get it tonight, and the next thing is difficult to do. She even began to doubt herself. The raw rice must be cooked to make her feel safe, so that she can feel that the two are a team. If it were decades later, this kind of contract would be meaningless, but now it really feels like a contract. The lights in the room went out. Lu Feng was thinking about Zhang Xiaoyan, and felt a little sorry for others. Later, he thought, this body is an old client of Hor, what is the psychological burden to do? Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 72. It was already late at night, the entire business world was restless, even Zhou Xianfei was awakened, and some calls came to him to ask about some situation. Lu Feng was leaning on the head of the bed and smoking a cigarette. Bai Yuanfang's face was a little flushed, and the whole body was paralyzed on Lu Feng's chest, exuding an indescribable smell of a young woman, raised his head to look at Lu Feng, and said weakly, "It's not your first time. I had a girlfriend when I was in college, and then we broke up." Lu Feng knocked the ashtray on the bedside table. He didn't want to talk more about this topic, and said, "I don't think I should be too anxious about Jian Zongnan. Why aren't you in a hurry? I wish I could divorce him now and marry you." Bai Yuanfang rubbed against Lu Feng as she spoke. If the relationship between the two lasts for a long time, how can it be in the twilight and twilight, right? Lu Feng pondered for a while and said, "I still want to make some achievements and show it to my dad. It's a chaotic situation, it's profitable, and it's definitely a good situation to fish in troubled waters. As long as I get the control of the factory, there will be several million, tens of millions. How much will it cost?" Bai Yuanfang's voice snorted, his eyes rippling like a pool of spring water, staring at Lu Feng and said, "Enough to spend, as long as you stay with me. Isn't my money your money?" Lu Feng noticed that this woman couldn't listen to anything now. Her hands became restless again, she hurriedly pinched the cigarette, pulled the quilt from one side, let her go to the other quilt, and said, "It's getting late. Go to bed early, good night." After turning off the light, Bai Yuanfang felt that she had got the life she dreamed of. A well-informed man, living the life in the movie, would say good morning, good night, and even kiss goodbye. In this age when holding hands is a little shy, the life in Western movies makes her intoxicated. In the city office, Zhou Xianfei sat there with his clothes on, listening to Secretary Li finish the story. The local state-owned enterprises have all called and wanted to ask about this, whether it is true or not, and some people said, "Don't move, now is a critical moment, you can't be too radical, the local private enterprise structure adjustment." Zhou Xianfei frowned and shouted, "I'm afraid someone is afraid that I will affect his interests. Let's do this first, take that guy over tomorrow, and make a big deal without saying a word." "Which guy? Which guy could there be?" "That Lu Feng." Zhou Xianfei stood up and left. Secretary Li sighed and looked at the watch on the wall. It was already 1 o'clock in the middle of the night. He made a tisk-tisk sound, like a sigh, and whispered, "Reform. Reform." At 8 o'clock the next morning, Bai Yuanfang woke up from her sleep with a happy expression on her face. She slept the best tonight in the past few years. Empty. "Where's the person?" Bai Yuanfang called out in a panic. "Washing up. What time is it? Get up quickly," Lu Feng said in the bathroom. "It's all right, you're done washing up, come here quickly," Bai Yuanfang waved. "Don't go, you are a hooligan." Bai Yuanfang was amused by his words, and after dawdling for almost an hour, the two went downstairs to have breakfast. Bai Yuanfang had loose hair and a smile on his face. Even the waiter who saw her yesterday looked at her in a daze, as if they were two different people. Lu Feng didn't expect her to change so much, so he said, "You are getting more and more beautiful. When I'm in a good mood, I want to laugh when I see you." Bai Yuanfang smiled and rolled his eyes. Looking at her like this, Lu Feng was thinking about what to tell her after the work was done. Just as he was about to give her a vaccination, a waiter came over and said, "Mr. Wang, excuse me, someone is looking for you." Lu Feng turned his head to look. Secretary Li stood at the door of the restaurant and said, "Let him come over." Secretary Li came over and looked at Lu Feng, a little-known person who made the water in Baiwan City pitch black. He also admired it very much. If it weren't for his details, he wouldn't dare to neglect. "What about eating? Come with me after you finish eating." "Have you eaten yet?" Lu Feng pointed to the chair next to him and said, "Sit down and eat a piece. The breakfast here is really delicious." Secretary Li sat down to himself. Bai Yuanfang looked at him quietly, pretended to be very casual and asked, "What are you going to do in the city?" "It has nothing to do with you." Secretary Li also listened to some rumors and said with disgust, "Aren't you Qian Zongnan's wife? What are you doing by his side all day?" Bai Yuanfang's face was not good looking, and she wanted to say something to him, but because of her identity, she couldn't attack, so she was very aggrieved. Lu Feng hurriedly said, friend." After dinner, Lu Feng explained a few words and followed Secretary Li to the city. In the office, Zhou Xianfei had a lot of documents in front of him with a sad expression on his face. Secretary Li knocked on the open door and said, "Lu Feng is here." "What is Lu Feng?" "Will be called Mr. Wang from now on." Zhou Xianfei waved his hand and said, "Come in and close the door." Lu Feng walked in and sat directly across from him, asking, "What's the matter?" "You pay attention to your identity and your attitude," Secretary Li reminded aside. Zhou Xianfei waved his hand, looking indifferent, stared at Lu Feng and asked, "You had dinner with Jin San's gang last night. What did you mention about the big cow project? What do you mean?" "It's been rumored that the city is full of storms, and the local bank has been frozen overnight. In the loan business, your words have made many people secretly start to gather funds." So fierce, Lu Feng was also a little surprised by the effect. "You have to pay attention to your current status. You are not an ordinary person. You represent the largest toffee manufacturer in China. You can make a fortune if you touch it." Zhou Xianfei originally thought he had some plans, but now it seems like he is casual. "Talk," slapped the table angrily. Secretary Li stood beside him with a dark face. The atmosphere in the room was extremely depressing. Zhou Xianfei's aura of being in a high position was still very depressing. Lu Feng sat there crookedly, squinting at all this. "I tell you, you will be responsible for any consequences." Zhou Xianfei turned his face and refused to recognize the person, and shouted with his finger, "Lu Feng, let you go to jail." Lu Feng was stunned for a moment. He felt something. He shrugged and said, sit, don't blame me for what I'm saying." "You threaten me? Believe it or not, I'll call the Public Security Bureau now and detain you on charges of bluffing and deceit." Zhou Xianfei pressed step by step. Lu Feng nodded and said, "Not only can it be detained, but the court can also sentence it." "But what did you get? I didn't offend you, right? Now it's both beneficial, and the means of extreme pressure are useless." "What extreme pressure?" Secretary Li said. "It's just because of what you did last night." Zhou Xianfei stared at Lu Feng, and saw him sitting there, looking like he didn't care. If ordinary people were so frightened, they would have lost their minds long ago, and then they would just do whatever they want. Everyone has what they need. It's just that you didn't discuss what happened last night. If you have any ideas, you can exchange ideas." Zhou Xianfei put on a smile and picked up the cigarette case from the table. Smoking, I am here. People are bad-tempered, don't take offense." "It's okay, I have a bad temper, I just don't dare to attack." Lu Feng took the cigarette, lit it and said, "My idea is very simple, make a fake project and absorb their cash, short-term lending through banks, pulling funds from both sides, forms a vacuum period in time. As long as there are only a few days, these companies will completely collapse, and then some companies will be released, and other companies will be annexed. You think, Jin-san, when the master fell, those little servants under his command got up, and the fellow villagers disbanded? Zhou Xianfei thought for a while and said, this model is very good, it will help stimulate the vitality of the local economy, and it will also significantly promote the readjustment of the local economic structure. Lu Feng gave a thumbs up and said, it's up to you to sum it up well. This kind of tabletop sounds comfortable. Then do as you said, I will take the lead and form a fund reservoir. You have to let them pour the money in. As for how you play, I don't care, or that sentence, no matter black cat or white cat, it can catch a mouse is a good cat. Lu Feng nodded and agreed. After leaving the door, his back was soaked with sweat, and he breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't know what Zhou Xianfei was going to do, and he didn't want to know. This is not what he should understand. Bai Yuanfang was already waiting at the door. She was absolutely haunted by Lu Feng. She honked the horn and said, Qian Zongnan is in a hurry to find you. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 73. Lu Feng got into the car and was anxious about Qian Zongnan, as he expected. If Bai Yuanfang hadn't been by his side, he would have come running in the morning. What did he say to you? Bai Yuanfang asked. It's nothing, it's just that I have some opinions on the fellow villagers. I want to borrow my hands, Lu Feng said casually. I don't think you should get involved so much. Zhou Xianfei has been unhappy with the association for a long time. The association is essentially an organization where the rich help the rich. He wants to break this monopoly. The two sides have been fighting each other for several years, and as long as state-owned enterprises are reformed, they will immediately use the funds to acquire them. Bai Yuanfang looked at Lu Feng and said, we don't care so much, we will take back what we should take. Lu Feng didn't understand why Zhou Xianfei wanted to move the association. The development of local enterprises and the local economy were good things for a leader like him. It seems to be clear now that the original intention of the state to release state-owned enterprises is to activate private capital, form market competition, and create a benign business ecology. According to their unified action and unified acquisition method, only this part of the people will be fattened, and others will never have a chance to play this game, let alone any healthy competition in the market. Let's meet Qian Zongnan first. Lu Feng neither refused nor agreed. My idea is, you sign a contract of intent with him today, and in a few days, ask me to sign a contract with him, Bai Yuanfang said eagerly. The meaning of the city is that it is dominated by the city. In a few days, there will be a big cow project, which will attract a lot of funds, Lu Feng said slowly. What do you mean? What does this have to do with the two of us? Bai Yuanfang said a little irritably. It's such a simple thing, and it's like this, you are being held by Zhou Xianfei as a spearman. Lu Feng nodded and said, yes, but I have to cooperate, we are not in a hurry. Okay, Bai Yuanfang could only agree, and now she can only rely on Lu Feng. In the living room of the hotel's VIP lounge, Qian Zongnan was dressed in a formal suit and was accompanied by three men dressed in the same way, holding folders, giving him the feeling of an elite in the workplace. Qian Zongnan saw that Bai Yuanfang was like an old tree sprouting, glowing with an unprecedented femininity, and he completely understood and felt a little more at ease. Mr. Wen, you didn't tell me about the big cow project, Qian Zongnan asked with a smile. Lu Feng sat down and said, I told your wife. Qian Zongnan raised his head and stared at Bai Yuanfang and said, why didn't you tell me? Last night, I talked to her in detail in the room. This matter is led by the city. The newly established company will sell a part of the equity. It's a public-private partnership, Lu Feng said, leaning on the sofa. Then can you take care of it? Look at our relationship, right? Qian Zongnan blinked at Bai Yuanfang. Yes, but Mr. Wang told me that we have to sign a contract, and we need to give people some control over the equity of the factory. In this way, we are a family and people can trust us, but the project is still at a critical moment when it starts. Falls under the name of Mr. Wang, it is easy to be gossiped by others, so, put it under my name first. Bai Yuanfang looked at the crowd and said, I am now with Mr. Wang, we are one. When Qian Zongnan heard this, his face became stiff, and he didn't see any benefits, so he gave the equity to Bai Yuanfang first. He was a little uneasy. Three people, you look at me, I look at you, everyone has their own plans, they all want to make money, and no one wants to be fished. Mr. Wen, what do you think? Bai Yuanfang glanced at Lu Feng meaningfully. Mr. Qian, you should express it first. If you want to supply goods, you must be under our control. This is for sure. First, transfer 49% of the equity to your wife's name. You two are a family, which means that's it, Lu Feng said with a smile. Okay, Qian Zongnan smiled when he heard that he was absolutely controlling, took out a folder with a contract in it, looked at Bai Yuanfang and joked, we still have such an identity, let Mr. Wang, it's a joke. Bai Yuanfang's face was ugly. After hesitating for a while looking at the contract, he finally signed it. Mr. Wang, it's a pleasure to work with. As soon as I see you, I feel very kind. Even if you are young, I feel that you are like my father. Let me respect you. Qian Zongnan's face was full of flattery. Lu Feng laughed and said, I'm not very honored to have a son like Mr. Qian. I have to tell my dad that he has a grandson. I'm not very honored to be the grandson of Mr. Wang. I have to invite you for this lunch at noon. If you have any needs, even though I say that my wife is sometimes extravagant and asks others to serve you. Let's be happy and dance romantically. Qian Zongnan became even more humble. He walked beside him with a hunched waist and a smile on his face. He looked like a eunuch. He had to do better than Third Master Jin before he could get this opportunity. At noon, the General Office announced the Big Dairy Cow project. From tomorrow, it will absorb private funds and adopt a method of not publishing the shareholding ratio. At the same time, it is implied that as long as the money is given more and the share is larger, it will become a supplier. As soon as this happened, it exploded in the business world like a giving money brightly. The three words Big White Rabbit are too valuable. Although Lu Feng made a lot of noise before, it was not as good as the local endorsement. Comes effective. All of a sudden, everyone was running around to tell each other that even if they were selling a house or a car, they had to put money in. Maybe it was because they felt that this matter was too stimulating for the weak private capital. An hour later, it was changed to the starting investment of 1 million. This threshold blocked 99% of the people in an instant, and it could even be said that only the gang of fellow villagers were left. The demand for GMA food is strong, and now it has become Zhou Weiman's largest customer. Every day more than 100,000 goods are delivered, and he stays there. After the inspection of the raw materials for more than a dozen cars, he looked at the list of goods with his head, and confirmed that there was no problem and signed it, and said, let's go, the financial settlement. Brother, smoke. Zhou Weiman handed over 2 packs of Zonghua cigarettes and said, the business is getting better and better recently. I haven't seen President Lu for a while. Why do you ask this? Go into the house and get the money. Don't worry, let's have a cigarette. I have heard a few things recently. Some people say that he is looking for Renqianbo all over the world and wants to expand, and some people say that he is planning to prepare a new factory. It's true or false, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Zhou Weiman thief glanced at the surroundings and asked in a low voice. I have no idea. You are stupid, we are together now. If you build a factory, I can't supply it. I will expand my factory. We are our own family. Zhou Weiman saw that he did not speak, and reached out to open the door of the truck. and handed over a strip of Chinese cigarettes that had been disassembled. Gao Jiwei saw Zhou Weiman thief in the office. He didn't leave after delivery. He pushed open the door and walked out and shouted, "Big head, what are you doing standing outside in the winter? Isn't it cold? Mr. Zhou, come in, I'll give it to you. You pay the bill." The big head walked away. Zhou Weiman scolded and said, "Damn, take another good cigarette." When the account was settled in the financial room, Gao Jiwei looked at him and said, "Mr. Zhou, what are you telling Datu?" "Nothing." "Diddy. Diddy. Diddy." Zhou Weiman hurriedly took out the pager from his waist. The information displayed on it was, "Hurry back to Baiwan City, hurry back to Baiwan City, 100,000 hurry." "I'll call back." Zhou Weiman picked up the phone from the finance room and called. "Hey, manager Hao, what's the matter? Is there a production problem?" "Mr. Zhou, it's not a production issue. The Big White Rabbit Group has come to our city. It's been a few days. They want to form a new group, a public-private partnership. They will sell a part of the equity. Be able to become a supplier and be a supplier to the Big White Rabbit Group. Is this true?" Zhou Weiman's voice trembled a little. It was like a pie from the sky. "It's absolutely true. The third Master Jin and Mr. Shi's gang are about to fight. Come back quickly, don't miss the opportunity." "Okay, I know, I'll set off in a while." Zhou Weiman hung up the phone excitedly. "What's the matter, so happy to be like this? It feels like you won the lottery." "Share it with us," Gao Jiwei joked. "Leave the matter here to that little son, I'll go back. I don't want to ask about President Lu's whereabouts. I ask several times a day," Gao Jiwei said with a smile. "Don't talk to you, let's go." Zhou Weiman picked up the payment on the table, and went out without counting. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 74. In the evening, the few street lamps on the street have been lit up, and the music in the red romantic dance hall is heard from time to time. This is the most famous local gold-selling cave. Ordinary people's salary for a month is only a few hours here, and they even have to catch up on their old books. "Mr. Wang, please," Qian Zongnan said with a pleased gesture, "I will pay for all the consumption tonight." "Thank you, Mr. Qian." Then Lu Feng walked in, with Bai Yuanfang following closely behind him. Although the weather was cold, it was as warm as spring inside. There were still bare-legged little girls sitting on the seats at the door, some smoking cigarettes, and they looked very social. This is not only a dance hall, but also a bar and karaoke. There is a chess and card room upstairs, which is very comprehensive. Under the flickering lights, accompanied by disco, many people dance, and there is a bar not far away. Bai Yuanfang became interested and asked Lu Feng, "Can you dance disco?" "Disco?" Lu Feng frowned slightly. In his impression, it was danced by his grandparents, which belonged to the same level as Yanko. He said a little embarrassedly, "Not very good." "It's okay, few people know how to dance. What kind of wine do you drink?" One of the most luxurious booths at the bar was wrapped, and after a while, 7 or 8 little girls were sitting in their seats, and all kinds of foreign wines were served on the table. Such a big deal instantly attracted the audience. Lu Feng looked at these foreign wines. "If I remember correctly, there is no foreign exchange to get these things. 1000% is fake." Lu Feng is already sitting next to 5 or 6 little girls, calling the boss all the time. Well, one is better than the other. There were 2 or 3 sitting next to Mr. Qian, but the strange thing was that Bai Yuanfang saw the girl next to Lu Feng's face was unhappy, and said, "You go and sit there, don't be next to Mr. Wang. We were drinking with him." "That's right, don't sit here and sit there. You go with Qian, and there is always money," Bai Yuanfang said unhappily. "Who are you?" "President Qian said that we should accompany this gentleman." What's the matter with you? Are you with other people? I didn't see you coming in just now. Are you rushing to buy and sell? Lu Feng was asked by the chatter and subconsciously said, "This is President Jian's wife." When Lu Feng finished speaking, he could clearly feel that the atmosphere in this piece froze for a moment, and a few little girls were full of doubts, and they came out to play with their wives. The key is that Mr. Jian's wife asked herself to accompany Mr. Jian, not to pester this young handsome guy. Everyone had never seen any scene in such a windy place, but this relationship made them a little bit puzzled. "Sit here," Lu Feng said hurriedly. "What did you do?" "Open the wine." Jian Zongnan also reacted, and several people around him greeted him and said to Lu Feng, "If you don't get drunk, you won't go home tonight." "I'm not used to foreign wine, so beer is fine," Lu Feng said, aiming at the few people who had been following Jian Zongnan, and found that they were sitting there with two folders tucked behind their backs, in the dark hard to spot. Like some kind of contract text. Lu Feng secretly became wary, picked up a bottle of beer and drank it for himself. These girls definitely have a knack for making the atmosphere. Even a dull person like Lu Feng would have a lot of fun in the booth. "Mr. Wen, I want to ask you to dance, how about it?" A girl reached out to Lu Feng. She was the most beautiful among the 7 or 8 girls. With big eyes, long hair, and a white skirt, it gives people a feeling of being out of the mud and unstained. Compared with the sisters who just entered the door with cigarettes in their mouths, they are so innocent and people want to protect them. It is certain that the few present here are definitely the top cards here. "Accompany Mr. Wen well and let him experience the disco in Baiwan City," Jian Zongnan exclaimed excitedly. "I really can't jump," Lu Feng declined. "It's okay, I'll teach you, it's easy to learn, unless Mr. Wen doesn't like me, then don't talk about it." "No way," Lu Feng stood up and took her hand into the dance floor. The girl basically sticks to Lu Feng's body. Shaking lightly, her clothes were a little thin, her big eyes were pitiful, and she said a little aggrieved, "Mr. Wen, in fact, I can't dance, I just came today, in fact, I'm a student, I jumped out of the wall tonight." "Of? Come here to play?" Lu Feng wondered. "No, to make money, my family is poor, my father is disabled, my mother farms alone, and I need money to go to school. I study very well. I was admitted to a key university last year, but I had no money to pay tuition fees, so I had to repeat a year." She said that her name was Xiaoxiu, and she was a third-year high school student. She came here to make money. She felt that Jian Zongnan was a bad person, while Lu Feng was a good person, and would not do anything to her. She leaned against Lu Feng's chest, telling her tragic story. Tears wet Lu Feng's shirt, she looked so helpless. "Don't worry, I won't embarrass you." Lu Feng was talking, but his eyes were quietly looking at the position of the booth. Since he got off the dance floor, Jian Zongnan never took a sip of wine and kept communicating with the people next to him. "What is he doing?" His expression is very serious. "Mr. Wen, come back tomorrow, can you cover my desk?" Xiaoxiu said with big eyes full of expectation. "I know this request is a bit unreasonable, so forget it." "It's all right." A few minutes later, Bai Yuanfang got off the dance floor and whispered beside Lu Feng, "They have prepared a contract. They probably want to get you drunk and make you sign it. Also, does this girl make you like it so much? Hold it so tight." For the companies of the association, Lu Feng's whereabouts are definitely a commercial secret. Jian Zongnan will naturally occupy him. As long as he does not communicate too much with other people, it will be beneficial to himself. The third Master Jin has been looking for Lu Feng all day. He just wants to win over him. He will start throwing money tomorrow. Now everyone wants to be more beneficial to themselves. Third Master, someone from Hong Romantic came over and said that Jian Zongnan took a young man to spend there and asked for a lot of foreign wine. "You don't need to ask, you know it's Mr. Wen. Go to the Red Romance, Jin Sanyi stood up and left, a group of people around him hurriedly followed. He stopped and said, "Don't go, just wait for the news." Lu Feng jumped for a while and returned to the deck. Xiaoxiu was already sticking to Lu Feng's side, clutching his arm tightly. "Mr. Wang, come, drink." Several little girls picked up their wine glasses and started a new round of games. Qian Zongnan also participated with great interest. A 28-9-year-old young man walked in from the doorway, in a casual suit, with a big back, looking very imposing, followed by 6 or 7 people, with an uneasy look on his face. "Mr. Xie, you are here," the manager stepped forward with a flattering face. "It's still the same, make arrangements." "I'm really sorry, the booth was occupied by Boss Jian, you should know them, they are all familiar faces." The young man raised his head and glanced at him, not angry, and said casually, "Who is he? I know him. He runs a factory and does food processing." "Xie always picks sand, what do you know a food maker for?" the person behind him said very proudly. "Arrange other booths and call that Xiaoxiu." The manager looked embarrassed and said embarrassedly, "Xiaoxiu accompanies Mr. Qian and those people." "What? You asked me Ma Zi to accompany others? They are students, don't you know? I said that she was admitted to university and I would sponsor her." Mr. Xie was angry and strode towards the booth next to the bar. Lu Feng drank a little too much, but the little girls kept persuading him to drink, and Qian Zongnan was coaxing him, chatting with him about business matters from time to time to try it out. "Mr. Wen, there are 3 of us and 1, you. Me. My wife, this is fate." Qian Zongnan blushed, patted his chest and said, "Look at the 3 of us, living in harmony and being happy with each other, it's just heaven and man the sum, perfect, do one." Xiaoxiu was as docile as a kitten, looked at Lu Feng with big eyes, and said in a low voice, "Don't drink, what should I do if I drink badly? You said you wanted to help me go to college." Lu Feng felt that this girl was like a cat's paw tickling his heart. It made him very comfortable all night, and he had already given him all the money in his pocket. After patronizing Qian Zongnan all night, he looked at her at this time. The businessman's intuition made him a little suspicious. "Are you worried about me?" Lu Feng asked. Xiaoxiu pursed her lips and nodded in a harmless manner. "Then drink it for me." Lu Feng put the wine directly in front of her. Xiaoxiu was a little dumbfounded, she had never seen him so unsympathetic to Xiangziyu. "Why is it? He is still in school, he doesn't know how to drink, you have to do your best." "Mr. Wen, you asked her to do it for you. It's a bit too much, and I'm bored." Qian Zongnan on the side made a run. Lu Feng was a little embarrassed, and suddenly heard a loud shout, "Hum! You beast, let her drink and sit on the stage." Hearing this, Lu Feng immediately thought that the savior was coming. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 75. Everyone in the booth raised their heads and looked at President Xie. Qian Zongnan's face was not very good looking, and any second bastard dared to yell in front of him. When Xiaoxiu saw President Xie, her expression was a little surprised. "Xiaoxiu, come here, what did he do to you?" Mr. Xie stared at Lu Feng with a bad expression, and said, "If he dares to do anything to you, I will chop him up." "Who are you? What are you yelling at me?" Qian Zongnan frowned and said, "Come and find fault with me, right? Mr. Xie from Jinshaqiang, how old are you? What do you want to touch?" A man behind Mr. Xie stood up with a bad face. "I'm from the Hometown Association. I have an important guest today. I don't want to have the same knowledge as you, so I'll go," Qian Zongnan said solemnly. "Hums, fellow townsmen, I'm very hot right now, people who dare to hum me don't want to live." President Xie stepped forward, stared at Lu Feng and said, "You, kneel down and apologize to her, as long as she forgives you, it's over." Xiaoxiu was in a hurry, stood up and pulled Mr. Xie and said, "What are you doing? This is my guest, don't make trouble. Didn't I tell you that I can go to school with peace of mind in the future? It won't be easy if I come here today," Mr. Xie said. The more annoyed he became, he picked up the beer bottle and smashed it at Lu Feng. Lu Feng hid aside, the beer bottle smashed on the ground behind him. Bai Yuan Fang hurriedly pulled Lu Feng and asked him to stand back to avoid a fight. Qian Zongnan's face was extremely ugly. It didn't give him face at all. He didn't mix with this, so he didn't know anyone, and shouted loudly, "Manager! Where's the manager?" The manager ran over and looked at the scene. He was also a little embarrassed. Mr. Xie often came here, Mr. Qian also came often, both sides couldn't afford to offend them, so they hurriedly said good things to both sides. "Don't talk about this, I just ask him to kneel down and apologize to me," Mr. Xie shouted with his finger Lu Feng, "otherwise, I will call someone, let's make a gesture." Many people at the scene noticed this, and they were talking about it. Which of the two is rich? Nonsense, there's definitely money to be made. Someone runs a factory, but he mines sand. You can't do it with money, Mr. Xie. He's the one who opens the battlefield, why do you want to give him face? How much money has nothing to do with him. You don't know, Mr. Xie is very kind to that Xiaoxiu. I've heard one thing, to sponsor her to go to college and make a college student lover. I saw it again today. Why do you kneel down for a dancer? Are you okay? Bai Yuan Fang said angrily, we just came out to play, why are you looking for something? Who do you say is the dancer? Mr. Xie shouted. Xiaoxiu choked with red eyes, sobbing, I know, I'm not clean, but I work hard and try to make me a little bit luckier. The people at the scene looked at Xiaoxiu and were a little moved, even Lu Feng was moved by her. Mr. Xie wiped Xiaoxiu's tears with a sense of justice in his heart. He waved to the people behind him, and shouted, I won't let them know today, I'm a white man in Baiwan City. Several people rushed up, and the atmosphere was tense in an instant, everyone became nervous, and Qian Zongnan was also a little flustered. The third Master Jin's car was parked downstairs in the Red Romance, the door opened, and a second-class man bowed his knees and said, Third Master, the person you want is inside. How many are they? 6 in total, but I'm having some trouble. What's the trouble? Because of a dancer, the fight is about to start. Mr. Xie in the battlefield will teach him a lesson and ask Mr. Wang to kneel down and apologize. Mr. Qian has nothing to do. Third Master Jin was stunned for a moment, then laughed, isn't this God's will? Although I don't know Mr. Xie, who started the battlefield, everyone on the road has to give themselves face and solve this matter beautifully, which is more useful than Qian Zongnan's busy day. Hurriedly walked upstairs. At the same time, Zhou Weiman drove into the downtown area of Baiwan and met manager Hao, who had been waiting for him for a long time. How is it? Zhou Weiman asked eagerly. Now people are red and romantic, and the third master has already gone. They didn't let them follow. The two sides robbed people. Manager Hao told the whole story of what happened in the past 2 days, and pondered, I think you should go to it. It's romantic, at least say hello to Mr. Wang, people have a little impression. If others go, it will make the third Master Jin unhappy. Zhou Weiman thinks about it. If he goes by himself, he can say that he has just come back and doesn't know anything. In Jin Sanyi's faction, as long as you stand in the front, you can get more benefits. Okay, I'll go right now. Zhou Weiman ignored his exhaustion, stepped on the gas pedal and went straight to the Red Romance. Several people from President Qian stood in front of him, and the on-site manager kept interceding, but President Xie was unmoved at all. In this situation, Qian Zongnan could not be undone. President Xie picked up a wine bottle and smashed it, and shouted, I'll beat you to death. A few people rushed up and were about to start. Some dancers even covered their eyes and dared not look at it. Fighting in this kind of place was commonplace, and instead of waiting for the sound of smashing, a deep shout came from the door, "I see who dares to do it." When Qianzongnan heard the voice, he already knew in his heart that his contract could not be signed tonight. Everyone turned back one after another, thinking to themselves, tonight is really exciting, and there are not many people who dare to challenge President Xie in this place. President Xie was also puzzled. He turned his head and saw an old man with white hair and leaning on a cane, but he was very imposing, and everyone gave way. "Who the hum are you?" "Jin-san, the brothers on the road give face and call him a master," Jin Sanyi said in a hurry. "Master Jin?" Although Jin Sanyi is no longer in the rivers and lakes, there are still legends in the rivers and lakes, and the face still has to be given. Mr. Xie said, "I'll give you a face. This surnamed Qian, I'll let it go. This grandson moved my horse, today he's going to lose a leg. Those surnamed Qian, you can do whatever you want, Mr. Wen, you can't move." Mr. Xie stared at Lu Feng with a sullen expression on his face. He walked in front of Lu Feng and provocatively said, "I'll sell him a face today. Someday I will meet you on the road again. If I beat you, kneel on the ground and call me father." Hearing such arrogant words, Lu Feng smiled and said nothing. "Xiaoxiu, go to my booth." Mr. Xie turned his head and said to Xiaoxiu. Xiaoxiu was a little confused. She looked at Lu Feng and said in a low voice, "I'll go in a while. The clock has not yet arrived at this booth, and there are only a few minutes left. It's not bad for that little money, brother will make it up for you." "No, I can earn it myself, Mr. Xie, I won't be able to drink with you in a while, and I haven't finished my homework yet," Xiaoxiu said innocently. "It's okay, I'm drinking, and you do your homework." Jin Sanyi looked at Qianzongnan with a triumphant smile on his face, and said to Lu Feng, "Mr. Wen, it's all right, this place is a mixed bag, everyone has it, you should pay more attention." "Thank you, Third Master Jin. I'm not familiar with this place, so it's not very good if something happens," Lu Feng said politely. "With me, don't worry. I suggest Mr. Wang to deal with some people less. It's not reliable. At this point, I'll send you back. Tomorrow will be the start of the equity fundraising for the Big Dairy Cow project. Rest early," Jin Sanyi said indifferently. "Yes." Lu Feng turned his head and said, "Thank you for the hospitality, Mr. Qian. Let's go downstairs together, so as to avoid another conflict." Qianzongnan agreed in a low voice, walked over to Lu Feng and explained, "Mr. Wen, I am still very powerful in Baiwen City. This man has eyes and does not know Mount Tai, which makes you laugh and guarantee your safety, no problem at all." "No. I know," Lu Feng said politely. 6 or 7 girls followed him downstairs, and Xiaoxiu followed Lu Feng. "You don't have to go down, you don't have to send it." Lu Feng waved his hand. "I'm going downstairs to get my school bag, I need to do my homework," Xiaoxiu said with her big eyes blinking. "Mr. Wen, you promised me, does it count?" "Promise you what?" "Come to me tomorrow, I promise you that nothing like this will happen." "There is a private room upstairs," Xiaoxiu said pitifully, "I still have a few $100 short of tuition." Just as Lu Feng was about to speak, Jin Sanyi said, "Mr. Wen, I'll take you back." "No need, you can go back by yourself, you can go first," Lu Feng said. He had already reached the door and waved to the two of them. He understood that as long as one stayed, the other would never leave. The two got into the car at the same time. Lu Feng waved his hand, and suddenly saw a car speeding up not far away with a familiar license plate. "Let's go back," Bai Yuan Fang said. Lu Feng saw the license plate and subconsciously shouted, "I'm Nima." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 76. What's wrong, Bai Yuanfang wondered. It's okay, I suddenly remembered that Xiaoxiu is very poor. I'll go to her and help me, Lu Feng said and walked in. There was a row of girls sitting not far in front. It was a bit messy, like the dormitory of these dancers. Lu Feng came over and asked, "Is Xiaoxiu here?" "Xiaoxiu, someone is looking for you." After a while, Xiaoxiu came out. When she saw Lu Feng, she was a little surprised. She was carrying a brand new school bag with a few books in it. "Mr. Wen, do you have something to do with me?" Xiaoxiu said in a panic. "It's nothing, I just want to chat with you for a while." Lu Feng turned his head to look at the door and saw Zhou Weiman's car was already parked at the door. "High school. 1 middle school. How many classes?" "Class 9. "Mr. Wen, are you coming tomorrow?" "You really don't need to care about Mr. Xiet. He can't come for a month. He happened to meet him today." "I'm sorry." Xiaoxiu lowered her head, as if she had done something wrong. Looking up at Lu Feng, he said, "Otherwise, you can leave tomorrow's money first. I'll wait for you. If you have something to do, I'll do my homework there." "Homework?" Lu Feng looked suspicious at the school bag. He really felt that a child from a poor family would be moved to such a place to go to school, but the school bag was too new and there were too few books. "Okay," Lu Feng nodded, took out a set of math papers from his school bag, flipped through a page, pointed to the equation above, and said, "Tell me about the solution to this problem." "What? This is, I haven't learned yet." "You're already in the 3rd year of high school, and you haven't learned the two-dimensional linear equation yet." Lu Feng's mouth already showed a smile. "Mr. Wen, what education do you have? What equations do you know?" Xiaoxiu's face was a little embarrassed. "It doesn't matter what education I have. I know that Mr. Xie must have never been to junior high school," Lu Feng said and sighed, looking at her innocent face and big black eyes. He suddenly thought of comedy in the words of Lu Piao in The King, "If I were really a student, I wouldn't be sitting on the stage here." She smiled slyly, like a little fox, put her school bag on her back, and waved to Lu Feng, "The guests are still waiting, I'll go up first, see you by fate." Lu Feng waved his hand and watched her jumping upstairs. He felt a little lost in his heart. He couldn't tell. Is a scumbag. Playing with an eagle was pecked in the eye by an eagle. "Damn it," Lu Feng scolded and nodded, seeing Zhou Weiman and Bai Yuanfang inquiring about something. He got into the car and prepared to leave. As soon as Zhou Weiman left, Lu Feng walked out and said, "Go back to the hotel. That person is from the 3rd Master Jin. It's interesting that he actually bypassed the 3rd Master Jin to find you. Are his people going to rebel?" Bai Yuanfang muttered. "Who knows, now my eyes are red when I see money," Lu Feng said and sat in the co-pilot. Under the pure white moonlight, the car was speeding, and the night was a little cold. Lu Feng tightened his clothes, and his breath was white. Bai Yuanfang is still muttering about her. All she wants is a little, the equity of the factory. Now she has 49%, but it is still 2% short. She hopes that Lu Feng will speed up a little, so that the two of them you can have a happy life sooner. Lu Feng couldn't listen to anything, he only wanted one thing in his mind. Zhou Weiman shook himself out, then everything was over, everything was over. In a trance, a bright light from the rear glared through the rear-view mirror abnormally, and a car suddenly paralleled. When Zhou Weiman, who was driving, saw Lu Feng on the co-pilot, he was completely dumbfounded. "Stop," Lu Feng called out. With a slam on the brakes, Bai Yuanfang turned around and asked, "What's wrong?" Lu Feng didn't say anything, he pushed open the car door and walked out. Zhou Weiman's car was parked aside. He stood in front of the car looking at Lu Feng, and recalled all the news he got from Manager Hao. "It's all fake, it's all your plans." Zhou Weiman stared at Lu Feng and said, "Many people speculate where you have gone. Some people say you went to Renqianbo, and some people say you are developing a new factory area. I didn't expect you to run here. If I stay there until the new year, will I lose your big client directly? What's the plan? You look down on me too much, Mr. Zhou. It's been a long time. Lu Feng walked over and said hello. My name is Boss Lu, or Mr. Weng. I'm still called Boss Lu. I'm not targeting you. I just want to supply myself and be more stable. That's what I thought at the beginning. Lu Feng simply told the whole story. What's going on with the big cow project? You've made a mess of White Plains. Off, Zhou Xianfei, you know, I guess you have also thought that the food raw material processing industry is about to be reshuffled, Lu Feng said bluntly. Zhou Weiman leaned on the front of the car and smoked cigarettes one by one. He was exceptionally sober in the cold wind, and immediately realized that his opportunity had come, an opportunity that has never been seen in 1,000 years. I'm going to get rich. Zhou Weiman got into the car with a smile. Don't talk about this, it's good for you, and it's good for me. I can buy a factory at a low price and use it for myself. You can also merge at a low price and expand your factory. Zhou Weiman sat in the car, threw the cigarette butt out, and said sadly, I will wait for them to put the money in first, then sell you for a sum of money, and then the third Master Jin, President Xi, and public-private partnership. Those companies will definitely blow their blood, and I'll end up at that time. Aren't you from the third Master Jin's group? If it's not making money, who the hell is with him? I'm going to make a fortune. Zhou Weiman started the car and drove away. Lu Feng looked at the car that was passing by, and he felt a little mixed in his heart. Now it's really a mess. Everyone has their own plans. In the end, he can't guess who will win and who will lose. He can only say it depends on his life. A large amount of local funds are poured into it, which will definitely cause financial difficulties for the company. If Lu Feng can't do it, he will spend more money, drop it, buy a small factory, and take it slow. Back in the car, Bai Yuanfang looked at him and asked, do you know each other? What are you talking about, for so long? I don't know, but I almost ran into it just now. Tell him to be careful in the future. Lu Feng adjusted his back and leaned on it. Go back. The car was parked in the hotel parking lot. It was already midnight. Bai Yuanfang took off his seat belt and put his arms around Lu Feng's neck. Feeling a bit tired? I can't even hug you. I'm not doing anything with you in the car. Bai Yuanfang looked at him with a bad expression and said, what? Talk about that Xiaoxiu? Are you going to donate to the school? Raise someone like you? College students. She doesn't even know the quadratic linear equation. She went to Mao University. Lu Feng pushed open the car door and said, it's just that she's in a bad mood. Get some rest early. Bai Yuanfang locked the car, chased after him and asked, what is a binary linear equation? Zhou Weiman returned home, his face full of excitement, lying on the bed still pondering the doorway. He already knew a lot that others didn't know, and had more than Jin Sanyi, President Xi, and Qian Zongnan. Get ahead. When these people smashed all the cash flow into the black hole set up by Zhou Xianfei, it was his turn to take action. Many people couldn't sleep that night. The third Master Jin thought about the opportunity for him. Qian Zongnan regretted being disturbed by President Xie. The contract was not signed. The contract was originally signed tonight to ensure that he would not. It was completely squeezed out of the big cow project in the future. Bai Yuanfang couldn't sleep either. She looked at the innocent college student beside her who she once thought was pure, but now she felt that this person couldn't understand, couldn't figure it out, as if there was something wrong. The next morning, Lu Feng woke up to wash up and went downstairs to have breakfast. At 10 o'clock this morning, the Big Dairy Cow Equity fundraising project was about to land, and he was also invited to the scene. Lu Feng changed into a suit, fearing that something might happen, so he decided to go ahead and at least communicate with Zhou Xianfei to make sure things are under control. Isn't it starting at 10 o'clock? It's so early. Bai Yuanfang looked at the time on the wall, and then at Lu Feng, who was handsomely dressed. He was so excited that he threw himself into his arms and said, "It's early." "No. Okay, I'm done, I have time, I'll drive myself." Lu Feng waved his hand and went out the door without looking back. CuteChildren was rented. As for those hired bodyguards, they were too conspicuous to follow behind the buttocks, so Bai Yu and Fang did not continue to hire them. Lu Feng suddenly saw a car passing behind him. When he saw that it was Mr. Xie who was driving last night, his heart sank and he had a bad premonition. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 77. The enemy was very jealous when they met. President Xie looked at Lu Feng with a sneer on his face. He slammed the accelerator, and half of the body was blocked in front of Lu Feng's car. Lu Feng hurriedly braked, turned around and wanted to go the other way, only to find that there were two cars behind him. Mr. Xie got out of the car, his face full of anger. He walked to the front of the car and kicked the front of the car with his feet, shouting, "Get down, grass mud horse, get down for your father." Lu Feng sighed when he saw that he was so irritated. This is the reason why he has to study more. He was tricked by a dancer into this, and there is no one else. "Get out of my car, or I'll smash your car." Mr. Xie took out a baseball bat from the trunk as he spoke. There were 5 or 6 people in the 2 cars next to them, the same people from last night. Seeing that things had reached this point, Lu Feng opened the door and walked out. "There's nothing to say, there's no need to do it, right?" Lu Feng said. "Talk about Nima." A boy with a face with a national character rushed up and pushed Lu Feng into the car, shouting, "You humming deserve to talk to Mr. Xie? Isn't it awesome? Don't you know that?" "Who is that?" "The old guy last night." "Brother, don't get excited, I'm here to talk business, I'm not a local person, and we don't have any deep hatred, just shake hands, we're all friends." Lu Feng stretched out his hand and said. "Go to Nima." President Xie threw Lu Feng's hand away, stabbed Lu Feng's head with a baseball bat and shouted, "How old are you, and you're a humming foreigner, what are you doing?" Lu Feng still communicated with them in the way of a businessman, but this Mr. Xie was simply a local ruffian and couldn't talk. Lu Feng looked around and lit a cigarette. "You just want to beat me, don't you? Hit you? I abolished you and asked you to kneel down and call me father, isn't it arrogant? Call me again." Everyone kept pushing and shoving. Lu Feng was already leaning on the car, and there was no way to retreat. "Isn't it arrogant? Let me see if I'm arrogant again." "Arrogant? Isn't there a lot of people? Call that third master Jin, give him my eldest brother, and I will let him be arrogant." President Xie arrogantly handed his eldest brother to Lu Feng, and said, "Come on, call, if you don't call today, I will break your leg." "What is a foreigner from Nima being arrogant here? I will tell you, if the person you called can't deal with me, I'll make you kneel and kowtow and call your father, you know." Lu Feng laughed when he heard this, looked at President Xie and said, "You made me arrogant." "Yes, what I said, I see how arrogant you can be. It's not easy for the third master Jin to come here today. He gave him face yesterday." Lu Feng took the big brother, took out a large number of business cards from his pocket, and hit them one by one. "Hey! Secretary Li? I'm here at Sanchika." "Hey! President Jian, I'm at Sanchika." "Hey, Third Master Jin, I'm Mr. Bull. Mr. Han." In less than 10 minutes, there was a major earthquake in the business community of Baiwan City. Secretary Li knocked on the door and entered the office and said, "Secretary Zhou, something happened. That Mr. Wen was robbed halfway, and he said it was Xie Hung from the sand quarry." "What? How could this happen at such a time?" Zhou Xianfei stood up and said, "You hurry up, notify the Public Security Bureau, take someone there, ensure his life safety, and make sure that he can attend the event on time." "Okay. Okay, I'll go right now." "Notify the car in front, turn around and go to Sanchika Road, Qian Zongnan shouted anxiously. The two cars in front turned around and headed straight for the three-way intersection. The third Master Jin hasn't gone yet, but he has already run out of the house and shouted to the driver, quickly drive to Sanchika, inform the other bosses of the association, hurry up near the Sanchika, and check the sand quarry for Laozi. Mr. Xie, someone who dares to touch Laozi with anything. In Xie Hong's eyes, Lu Feng was just out of town to talk about business. He was probably not the boss, but at best the manager level. If such a person stepped on him, he was very unhappy. As everyone knows. Right now, half of the upper-class society in Baiwen City is in an earthquake, rushing towards this side. Lu Feng looked at the big brother in his hand. The signal was actually good. After so many calls, they were all connected. Have you ever met Big Brother? A brother next to him asked sarcastically. Take it, don't drop it, it's tens of thousands, can you afford it? It's best to have someone come in a while, or I'll break your dog's legs. Lu Feng handed his eldest brother to President Xie, stood there and continued to smoke. He didn't need to have the general knowledge of these people. He said, there must be a lot of people coming, I'll give you a vaccination in advance, no matter who you see, don't be nervous. Ha 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 ha. These words fell in Xie Hong's ears, more like a word that he said to strengthen himself because of fear. From the way he looked at his eldest brother, it could be seen that this man was a poor ghost with little knowledge. Lu Feng watched everyone laughing back and forth, and he himself thought it was funny. This world is always like this, if you keep a low profile, others think you are incompetent, so they want to belittle you a few times to show him. It's been so long, why hasn't anyone come yet? You cooperate with that President Jian, and he doesn't care about you. Xie Hong poked Lu Feng with the stick in his hand and said, I don't have that much time to spend with you, now kneel and kowtow, I'll let you go. Mr. Xie, there is a team over there that has turned the corner. Everyone turned their heads to look. 7 or 8 cars were coming towards this side. This is a three-way intersection, there are many intersections, and suddenly someone noticed that there were also convoys at the intersection on the left. It's there too. There's a police car over there. Why so many cars? Qian Zongnan's car stopped not far away for the first time, and President Qian ran down and shouted, Mr. Weng, are you all right? Don't worry, he dares to touch a hair on you, he just can't get along with me, Qian Zongnan. Jin Sanyi's car also stopped not far away, shouting, you dare to let Mr. Weng get a little injured, I Jin San will not agree, and the rivers and lakes of Baiwen City will not agree. Mr. Tian, chairman of Tiannan Industrial Junwei Food Factory, Mr. Han. Kilian Food Factory, Mr. Zhao. The siren of the police car has sounded, the entire Sancha intersection is surrounded by vehicles, and uniformed police officers are already standing in the front row with guns. Secretary Li shouted nervously with the loudspeaker, I'm the secretary of the municipal office, Li Qi, don't hurt Mr. Weng, anything is easy to talk about, don't hurt Mr. Weng. The few people who poked Lu Feng just now were dumbfounded. Looking at everything around them, their shocked eyes went dizzy. In their eyes, it was just a fight with Lu Feng. This kind of thing happens often, sometimes calling the police station. Are too lazy to reason. But today, the whole city of Baiwen shook. This. Xie Hong felt the cold sweat pouring out from behind, staring at the armed police in the front row, and swallowed involuntarily. The people I called are basically all here. Didn't you say that you broke my leg? Lu Feng looked at a few people and said, I was wrong, I apologize to you, just kneel down and call my father, is too bullying. The people under Xie Hong looked at the dark vehicles and couldn't see their heads at a glance. They were all from the team. Lu Feng's words were extremely cowardly, but when they fell into their ears, it made their hearts tremble. You are so arrogant, what kind of coward are you pretending to be? Don't move, the front row armed police shouted, raising the gun in their hands. The 5 or 6 people were so frightened that their legs went weak, they slumped to the ground, raised their hands, looked at Lu Feng and said, "We know we're wrong, sorry, we don't know Taishan, you treat us like a fart." Xie Hong also reacted. Looking at this situation, half of the business people in Baiwan City came, and even the secretary of the municipal office came. He really didn't know what Lu Feng's identity was when he was so young. He only knew that if there was a kidnapping today, he might sit in jail, plop down on his knees, and said with tears in his eyes, "Brother, father, dear father, I was wrong, I was just playing with you, you give me a chance and let me be a new person, okay? You asked me to call someone," Lu Feng said innocently. Xie Hong knelt on the ground and banged his head, crying, "I'm not a bad person, but I'm just a little grumpy. I promise to eat fast and recite Buddha in the future, do good deeds, and don't be rude again. You tell them, just say we were having fun." "You step back, let Mr. Wang walk over by himself, and strive for leniency," Secretary Li shouted. Lu Feng saw that after Secretary Li finished shouting, Xie Hong's pants were wet, and he was scared to pee with a word, and he said, "Okay, please be more polite in the future." Yes, yes, follow the teachings. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 78. Lu Feng said a few words for him, briefly explaining what happened last night. Qian Zongnan and Mr. Jin were both present at the time. It could be seen that this Mr. Xie had something to do with him, so he didn't bring it back for questioning. It was released on the spot. "Mr. Wen, today's ceremony is very important, are you okay?" Secretary Li asked nervously. "It's all right, don't delay." Lu Feng looked around, and the gang of fellow villagers were basically here, and he saw Zhou Weiman in the crowd. Today's Zhou Weiman is even more motivated, with a bit of pride on his face, as if he is winning, as the so-called mantis catching cicadas and oriole behind. Lu Feng thought he was a oriole and copied Zhou Weiman's back path. Zhou Xianfei thought he was a oriole and borrowed Lu Feng's hand. Zhou Weiman now feels that he is a oriole. After today, the business world of Baiwan City will let him need. Third Master Jin has approached him and asked him to spend more money. It is best to go to the bank for a loan. Zhou Weiman only took out 100,000 yuan, saying that all the funds were put on the goods, and the turnover could not be opened. The convoy headed for the destination in a mighty way. Zhou Xianfei was relieved when he heard the news that Lu Feng was all right. This Xie Hong almost disturbed the matter, and ordered someone to tap, and then look longer. At 9:30 in the morning, the stage has been set up and the red carpet has been rolled out. A row of hostess is preparing, with huge words written behind them, "The Big Dairy Project Equity Fundraising Launch Meeting." Although the weather was cold, the scene was still crowded with people. Lu Feng went to the back lounge and saw Zhou Xianfei shaking hands. As he approached, he whispered, "Someone already knows my identity, and it's from a fellow villager." "Huh?" Zhou Xianfei's face was a little dignified, and he whispered, "Did you say it?" "Probably not. He thinks this is an opportunity. After today, these companies are in short supply. He first sold me to make a profit, then bought a few companies and merged them to expand his factory," Lu Feng whispered. "Just don't delay me, where are you from? What's it called?" "Under the hands of the third Master Jin, Zhou Weiman." Zhou Xianfei nodded and said nothing. People greeted the scene constantly, as if it had become an exchange meeting. Mr. Shi and Qian Zongnan stood in a crowd, talking and laughing, and Mr. Jin was crowded, two groups of people. Although they belong to the same township association, there is no communication at all. As for the other group of public-private joint ventures, standing there seldom said anything, and Lu Feng even suspected that Zhou Xianfei was representing the interests of this group of people. As the host opened and started various speeches, the host finally said loudly, Let's welcome the representative of the Big White Rabbit Group, Mr. Wang, with warm applause. Lu Feng stepped onto the stage, looked at the people below, and said, "Thank you for your leadership, and thanks to everyone in Baiwan City for your help. The Big Dairy Cow project is to diversify the snack industry. Sooner or later, a legend of the Big White Rabbit will follow. Companies like Golden Monkey compete in the market, and I believe that the Big Dairy Cow project will surely achieve greater success." There was thunderous applause at the scene, and it lasted for a long time. Qian Zongnan was very excited to hear it. Even if he didn't get the equity, he would still make endless money to become a supplier. "There is a request below," Secretary Zhou speaks. Zhou Xianfei stepped forward with joy on his face. In his eyes, the group of businessmen below were all green leeks. Today was the harvest time, and they were still a group of leeks that were in a row. If it wasn't for Lu Feng's accident, a sickle is not easy to cut. I sincerely hope that the business of Baiwan City will be diversified, market-oriented, and free to compete. I hope that the entry of the Big Dairy project will bring a new atmosphere. Thank you. Jin Sanyi's group of people didn't look good when they heard these words. Zhou Xianfei always felt that these people were monopolizing the market and always wanted to break the hometown association, but unfortunately he didn't have the strength. The following is the chairman of Zongnan Food Manufacturing Factory, Mr. Qian Zongnan, the chairman of Jinsan Zong Food Manufacturing Co., Limited, and Mr. Jinsan Zong, come to the stage to cut the ribbon. There were dozens of people standing on the stage. Lu Feng stood beside Zhou Xianfei. With scissors in hand, he glanced at Zhou Xianfei quietly, and whispered, "You have already won half of it. You also won. I hope you can build a factory in Baiwan and contribute to local employment and market diversification." Lu Feng smiled and didn't speak. He lowered his head and cut the ribbon. There was continuous applause, and everyone's face was filled with smiles. Everyone's funds have been credited. Jin Sanyi and Qian Zongnan not only poured all the cash in, but also borrowed a lot from the bank. This money will be blocked by Zhou Xianfei and become a rope to strangle the two of them. There was a meal at noon, and Zhou Xianfei was polite to many people. "It was very lively when you came to me." Lu Feng was in a good mood and drank a lot. Zhou Weiman walked up to him with a wine glass and said, "Mr. Lu, I respect you alone." Lu Feng squinted at him. The scene was so noisy that no one could hear it. "The boat is done, the next time is to close the net, don't be afraid." Zhou Weiman touched the cup with a smile, and then drank it. Lu Feng took a sip. For some reason, he felt that Zhou Weiman was a little overwhelmed, as if everything was under his control, and with the money he had now, he could hold everyone present in his hands. "Boss Zhou, you have a good relationship with Mr. Wang. This is the best boss under my command. He cooperates very well with that GMA foodstuffs." Jin Sanyi walked by and said, "Little Zhou, give Mr. Wang another cup. I want to respect yourself." "What is Xiao Zhou?" "Who is Xiao Zhou?" Zhou Weiman was full of dissatisfaction. Jin Sanyi was embarrassed there, his face twitched a bit, and he said, "Don't take it offense if you drink too much. You pull Zhou boss while sobering up. Mr. Wang, I respect you." Lu Feng picked up the wine glass and touched it. It can be seen that many people rely on Jin Sanyi to get up, and Jin Sanyi doesn't care much about them. It is purely used as a tool to fight against President Xi's people. Judging from Zhou Weiman's tone, the resentment has not been a day or two, but now it has the confidence to break out. Zhou Weiman came to Qian Zongnan's table with a wine glass, and patted Qian Zongnan's shoulder with his arms. Qian Zongnan turned his head to see him, was a little surprised, and said, "Boss Zhou, why are you running to me? Toast. You don't want to hang out with the golden retriever?" The table man laughed. "Drink one." Zhou Weiman touched the glass and bowed his head. "Give me 100,000 yuan, and I'll sell you a shocking secret, which is enough for you to close down all the factories of Jin Sanyi's gang." "Are you drinking too much?" This secret is definitely worth 100,000 yuan. Someone has already laid a net. You and I are both fish. It's about that, Mr. Wang. When Qian Zongnan heard this, a layer of cold sweat broke out behind his back, and he was in shock and silently took a sip from his wine glass. This is the card number. If you don't have 100,000 yuan, 80,000 yuan will do. I'll call you when the money arrives. Zhou Weiman stuffed a piece of paper into his pocket. After 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Qian Zongnan and Zhou Xianfei said a few polite words and hurriedly went home. This time, it was Bai Yuanfang's residence. When he entered the house, he saw Bai Yuanfang sitting on the sofa watching TV. Are you back? Bai Yuanfang turned around and saw that it was Qian Zongnan's face that turned cold. I ask you something. Do not know. That Mr. Wen, where did you meet? Qian Zongnan stared at her and asked, your girlfriend slept with him? What's your girlfriend's name? Does it have anything to do with you? Bai Yuanfang stood up and took out a contract, and said, if you want to get the equity, sign the contract. I want 51%, and he can help you get you. Want? Is he from the Big White Rabbit group? He is, Bai Yuanfang said decisively. Zhou Xianfei says he is. Shit, what can't Zhou Xianfei do? I don't feel right. There isn't even a TV station today, and local news isn't broadcast. The news network didn't talk about such a big project. Are you drinking and drinking stupidly? After signing this contract, I will help you to do things, and then get divorced. You go on your Yangguan Road, and I go on my single plank bridge. It doesn't matter from now on. Bai Yuanfang forced. Qian Zongnan leaned against the doorframe. He felt that Zhou Weiman's money had to be spent. The water in Baiwan City might have been muddy long ago, and these people will realize it later. I pledged all my shares to the bank, exchanged it for money, and put it into the Big Cow project. What? Bai Yuanfang was shocked, his face pale. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 79. Bai Yuanfang was dumbfounded on the spot. She knew in her heart that she didn't have much chance to completely control Zongnan food. How could things develop like this? I asked you to sign it yesterday, why didn't you sign it? The factory should have belonged to me. It wasn't my cousin who asked us to come to Baiwan City. How can you have today? Bai Yuanfang was very unwilling. If I didn't work hard, would I be today? I didn't create this factory with my own hands. For more than 7 years, I didn't even have a chance to sleep well. Tell me, what happened to Mr. Wang? Qian Zongnan had already noticed something, and his voice trembled. Bai Yuanfang grabbed her hair with her hand. She had to ask Lu Feng. After thinking about it, she said, it's already like this. You should know something, or you won't come and ask me. You have a relationship with Zhou Xianfei to design us. Qian Zongnan thought of countless possibilities, but the complexity and twists and turns were not what he could imagine. He's a college student. He quarreled with his parents and ran out because of work arrangements. You beat me in the county hotel that day, and I hid in his room. Bai Yuanfang said one by one. It's fake, it's all fake, there's no Big White Rabbit Group's general manager's son, and no Big Cow project, right? Qian Zongnan muttered, his face turning purple. I just wanted to get the factory, then divorce you and stay with him. I didn't expect things to get out of control. Bai Yuanfang sighed and said, how do you know he's fake? Zhou Weiman told me. The left is the people. Now all the funds are in the hands of Zhou Xianfei. Whoever he wants to die will die. There is still a chance, a last chance. If he raises funds to buy the bottom, he will swallow those factories under the third master Jin in one bite. Simple. Qianzongnan's eyes began to glow. Crisis and crisis, opportunities amidst crisis, how much risk is compared with how much opportunity, everyone's funds have problems, it is the moment of a new round of shuffling, Zozian Fi dare not close all enterprises. All he wanted was to be obedient. These tens of thousands of dollars must be spent, Zhou Weiman definitely knows more. Qianzongnan figured out the key, turned around and left, and ran to the bank to pay Zhou Weiman. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Jin Sengyi held a meeting for a group of people under his command, and did ideological work for all the major manufacturers, so that the united front could fight. Okay, let's go. As soon as the words fell, Zhou Weiman stood up and left. Everyone's eyes fell on Jin Sengyi, and he made no secret of his provocation to Jin Sengyi. Jin Sengyi's face was a little ugly, and he shouted in a deep voice, "Stop for me." Zhou Weiman turned his head to look at him and said, "Is something wrong? I haven't asked you to settle the matter at the lunchtime. You just got orders from a few factories in the outer city. In my eyes, it's not worth mentioning. If you don't allow internal malicious competition, you'll be fine. Can you keep those clients?" Third Master Jin slammed the cane and shouted, "Don't know that the sky is high and the earth is thick." Everyone in the office glared at Zhou Weiman. "I don't know how high the sky is." "Oh, Jin Sanshong, I have endured you for a long time. You people are just uniting together to monopolize the market, otherwise you can make a fortune." Zhou Weiman is very proud at this moment. It won't take a few days for these people to beg him. He has enough cash in his hand, and when he has cash, he will be his father and grandfather. "Jin Sanshong, I'll give you a chance. I have a piece of information about the big dairy cow project, 100,000 yuan. I'll wait for your news." Zhou Weiman turned around and left. There was a lot of scolding at the scene, and they were all saying that Zhou was the wolf of the people. Why didn't he see this kind of person before? Jin Sengyi stood there with some doubts in his heart. Zhou Weiman has changed too much. Even if he is really dissatisfied, he has to pretend in front of his interests. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Zhou Weiman drove to the Jin mansion, and a smug smile appeared on the corner of his mouth when he looked at the courtyard. Just now, the pager showed the message from Manager Hao. The enterprise account received 80,000 yuan, and Qianzongnan had already compromised. After securing the third master of Jin, he would slap Lu Feng hard and collect enough money before the local factory panicked. Lots of cash. Once the capital chain of these companies breaks, they will be able to hold the shares at a very low price. Zhou Weiman walked into the Jinfu with a smile on his face, thinking happily that it is really raining gold. In just 2 hours, Jin Sengyi seemed to be a different person. He stood in the yard to greet him in person, and was very kind. He opened his mouth, "Big brother," and shut up, "Old brother." The food was very rich. Zhou Weiman sat on the main seat unceremoniously. After 3 rounds of wine and 5 flavors, Jin Sengyi asked someone to bring a tray with 100,000 yuan on it. "Over the years, I have also done something wrong. You should bear more and be more forgiving. These money are considered trivial. The main reason is to put all the money into the big cow project. I also hope that Brother Zhou will not disregard the past and raise more points." Jin San Grandpa's words were extremely polite. Zhou Weiman felt dizzy. He didn't know if he was drinking a little too much, or he floated up because of the words of the third master of Jin. He reached out and grabbed the money and stuffed it in his bag. "Then I'll just say it straight, Mr. Wang, it's fake, the big cow project is fake." Zhou Weiman said it very bluntly. "What?" Third Master Jin stood up abruptly and hurriedly asked, "What evidence do you have?" Zhou Weiman was just about to reveal Lu Feng's true identity, but then he thought that maybe this news could sell some money. He said, "I can assure you that he is fake, and the money you put in, after a while, I will tell you that the project was aborted and the original amount will be returned." Jin Sengyi's mind was spinning rapidly, his breathing was a little short, and he said alertly, is he from Zhou? It shouldn't be. The things here are quite messy. Your 100,000 yuan can only buy these news. Zhou Weiman picked up his bag and prepared to leave. Who else did you tell this news? Who sells the money to whom? Qian Zongnan's money has just arrived. By the way, third master, if the capital chain of your factory breaks, I can take a share, 300,000 yuan, and sell me half of it. Consider it. Zhou Weiman laughed and went out the door. The third master Jin sat there with a purple face. He had been messing around for a lifetime, and with such a result, he still had a chance when he was held in the hands of a Zhou Weiman. As long as Qian Zongnan doesn't know the news, he can make arrangements in advance. Zhou Xianfei will break them up, and he can take the opportunity to snipe Qian Zongnan's factory. Although I don't have much money now, I can still make a lot of money by selling houses and cars, and maybe I can make some money from it. The key is that the news must not spread. Jin Sanyi's eyes flashed with wickedness, and he shouted to the waiter, "Call me Erhu." A few minutes later, a man with a strong back walked in, looked at the third master Jin and said, "Third master, are you looking for me? You went out to do some business for me." Zhou Weiman drank some wine and drove to the city. Jin Sanyi pondered for a while, and said coldly, "Kill him to death." In the Western restaurant on the 14th floor, Lu Feng was eating and looked out the window. The bright moon was so bright and the sky was full of indescribable beauty. It's more than a month before the Chinese New Year. "Why don't you go back?" Bai Yuanfang asked casually while eating with his head down. "I have to go back, I will go back, let's finish it soon," Lu Feng sighed. "Your parents will forgive you. I actually believe in you very much. The time I spent with you has been the happiest time in the past few years." Bai Yuanfang raised her head, stared at Lu Feng and asked, "You won't lie to me, right?" "Why do you ask this all of a sudden?" Lu Feng smiled and didn't answer. He admitted that Bai Yuanfang was a poor woman, but the world was full of lies, and he neither affirmed nor denied it. "If I can't get the factory and I don't have the money, you will still." Before Bai Yuanfang could finish speaking, Lu Feng's pager rang and he pulled it out from his waist. When he saw the words on it, he was shocked. Zhou Weiman, dead. Return to 1990. Author, Guanwei 11 Feng. Chapter 80. What? Who are you saying is dead? Bai Yuanfang felt like a bolt from the blue, stared at Lu Feng with wide eyes, and couldn't believe it. Not to mention her, even Lu Feng couldn't believe it. In the afternoon, he was fine, but he died suddenly. Thinking about it carefully, it sent chills down your spine. "I'll make a call." Lu Feng stood up and left the restaurant. Bai Yuanfang leaned on the chair, her whole figure seemed to have been drained of all her strength, her eyes were slack, and now the scene is out of her control. Lu Feng called Secretary Li immediately. "It's so late, what's the matter?" "Give me Zhou Xianfei's call." "What's the matter, tell me." "It's the same." Secretary Li's tone was flat, making Lu Feng feel that he had been abandoned. "Zhou Weiman died, what did you do?" "What are you talking about? You suspect that no one will be suspicious of us. The police have already intervened. After drinking and driving, he collided with a car and died on the spot. Also, take care of yourself, it is already dead." Time. The other party hung up the phone. Listening to the blind tone on the phone, Lu Feng was stunned for a while, then came back to his senses and called the factory as soon as possible. "The phone is ringing, the factory manager's office phone is ringing." Gao Jiwei hurriedly came out, took the key from the waistband of his trousers, opened the door, answered the phone, and said with a hint of anticipation, "Hello? Is that Mr. Lu?" "It's me, Manager Gao. Listen to me. Zhou Weiman is dead. There is chaos here. Before I leave, I will ask you to contact more suppliers. No matter how big or small." "How are you busy?" Lu Feng said in a deep voice. When Gao Jiwei heard the voice on the phone, A smile appeared on his face. Whenever the voice was there, he felt at ease, as if Lu Feng, a man several years younger than him, gave people an indescribable feeling. Sense of reliability. I have come into contact with a lot, but some are of average quality. Why did Zhou Weiman die? How about the acquisition of the factory over there? I heard that there are many factories like Zhou Weiman in Baiwan City. Gao Jiwei hesitated. If you don't get in touch with other homes, you can temporarily replace them first. The acquisition of a factory should be no problem, but it's a little messy now. I should have gone back a year ago. Don't ask other factories. These factories are all in a group. I heard that Zhou Weiman supplies you, and other factories will not pay attention to you. Possibly stable. How is the market situation? We're still not productive. We're working in 2 shifts. Our business is booming, and we've even started to spill over into other provinces. The new products exploded as soon as they hit the market. After the Chinese New Year, who wouldn't buy food for their children? I see. About the expansion, let's talk about it later. How much money do I have on this card now? Lu Feng asked. Let me ask Datu. Zhou Weiman put down the phone, stuck his head out of the window, and yelled at the finance room, Datu, come here. Datu went out the door with an unhappy expression on his face. A few financial girls behind him covered their mouths with joy and came over and said, Mr. Gao, can you not call me Datu? My surname is Zhang. AI's surname is what's your surname? It's like those little girls like you. Mr. Lu called and asked how much you charged him on the card. Gao Jiwei looked at him with a bit of speechlessness. Brother Feng called. Datu was happy, picked up the phone and said, Brother Feng, are you doing well over there? How's the food? Don't talk nonsense. Let me ask you, how much money do I have in my card now? More than 2 million, our factory is now making more than 1.8 million a month, a small 2 million, I called you twice. Okay, you can call manager Gao. Lu Feng felt relieved when he heard the money from Carrie. Even if he doesn't participate in anything now, 2 million is enough to buy a factory. Mr. Lu, are you coming back in 3 or 2 days? 10 days and 8 days, do a good job of coping. How is my wife doing recently? I didn't even call home. My sister-in-law came here a few days ago. The work in the electronics factory is temporarily left to others. It's the New Year's Day, and I'm busy washing and washing, which is good. Lu Feng asked some more about the factory. He was at ease with Gao Jiwei. If it was Han Dong and Datu, he would have been gone for more than a month, and he would have gone bankrupt when he returned to the factory. After hanging up the phone, he was in a much better mood. For the next thing, he didn't participate in the cooperation, he just waited for the end of the big drama, and bought a factory with his own money. Someone shot against Zhou Weiman today, and maybe someone shot against Lu Feng tomorrow. Returning to his seat, Lu Feng saw that Bai Yuanfang did not move, and said, there was a car accident, I can't drive after drinking, something happened. Don't worry about him, the new year is coming soon, why don't you go back with me? Bai Yuanfang said with anticipation in his eyes, I'm going to divorce him in the next 2 days, and you will meet my son when I go back. When Lu Feng heard the word son, his hair almost stood up, and he shied away, eat first, then talk about it later. Then I'll give him my son, let's have another one, and work hard tonight, Bai Yuanfang said excitedly. Ft, cough, cough, Lu Feng coughed violently with a piece of beef stuck in his throat. The rest of the people in the restaurant looked sideways, their faces were ridiculed, and they all pricked up their ears. I'm full, go back to the house first. Lu Feng put down his knife and fork, stood up and walked back. What do you mean? Bai Yuanfang chased out. This night was destined to be inevitable. Third Master Jin sat at the dinner table for a whole night, thinking that if he lost, his life would be completely over. Qian Zongnan was smoking one cigarette after another. They didn't care about their subordinates, and now they just wanted to protect themselves. Zhou Xianfei was sitting at the desk, looking at the documents. Now the life of the entire association is in his hands. Secretary Li stood aside and said, Lu Feng called. He thought it was Zhou Weiman who was killed by us. It's absurd, this matter must be investigated clearly. For some social groups, check it out to the end. Zhou Xianfei patted the table and said, also, one day tomorrow, if anyone asks me to say that they are not there, they must tighten up bank loans and provide financial support. Sanzhong, Shi Lang, and Qian Zongnan are the three of them, and they are killing me. Even if the three companies go bankrupt, it doesn't matter. It's fine to keep the other companies. Besides, there is another Lu Feng holding money in his hand. What am I afraid of? Okay, I'll make arrangements tomorrow. Lu Feng was lying on the bed, tightly wrapped in the quilt. No matter how much Bai Yuanfang pulled, he couldn't move. She sat down angrily and said, what do you mean? You don't want to? No, I'm too tired, take a rest, and wear a condom. If you don't wear it, take the quilt away. Bai Yuanfang rushed up again as he spoke. Lu Feng was even tighter. What a joke, he was the man who was going to become the richest man in the future. Leaving an illegitimate child in her place was like burying a for his future life. The two kept tearing, and Lu Feng knew that he couldn't sleep well at night. Early the next morning, the streets were cold and windy, and there were few pedestrians. In such a cold weather, if it wasn't for living, no one wanted to go out. In front of the municipal gate, Qian Zongnan rubbed his hands and stomped his feet. He had been waiting here for almost an hour. Mr. Qian, Secretary Zhou is on a business trip today. I'm going to investigate. Don't wait. Secretary Li walked out and waved his hand. He turned around and was about to go back. I'm really in a hurry. I can wait for a day. Qian Zongnan couldn't describe the humbleness. There are so many companies in the hometown association. Qian Zongnan and Mr. Shi are also the leaders among the outsiders. Everyone ordered to be in order. Once upon a time, if Zhou Xianfei wanted to talk to him about something, it all depended on his mood. 30 years of Hedong, 30 years of Hexi. If you don't come back today, you can freeze if you want to be outside. Unlike Qian Zongnan, who came directly to find him, Jin Sanyi planned to start from his brothers and come out to mix. Everyone knows the truth, that is, dead Taoist friends should not die. Poor Taoists. Mr. Jin gathered about 20 food factories and called them brothers and sisters. Halfway through the drink, he said that he was short of money recently. He would borrow some money from everyone and give it after the new year. In the future, in the supply of food raw materials, the market can be tilted. But everyone was squeezed by Zhou Xianfei just now, and they almost mortgaged their panties to the bank. Where is the money? Besides, if you have money, you don't dare to take it out. The funds are already tight enough. If you borrow it, you may not even be able to make it through this year. During the whole day, many people have felt that something is wrong. Yesterday, the big cow project was mentioned. Today, there is no news at all. The lively energy of yesterday disappeared overnight. The newspapers didn't say it, and the TV didn't report it either. Lonely, as if they were about to run away with money, some people have secretly raised their hearts.